So the whole project so far is recycled. I haven't bought anything new for it other than these 2 bolts for the front axles. It's a 3-wheel. I actually got the plan. I got the plans from an ad in Mother Earth News for Atomic Zombie bicycle plans, and this is their Road Warrior. But I didn't follow his plans exactly. I just used it to give me the basics, and this is totally different than the whole style and the shape and the wheelbase and everything is different. I made it so that Shirley can pedal it. I made it with an adjustable front so yeah, you can move it back and forth, and I had to move everything back further and put in a shorter wheelbase and more of an angle and everything in order to, because she has a real short.
This would adjust here.
Yeah, this is adjustable with 4 bolts underneath. It clamps this way. The tubing is actually swimming pool tubing, above ground swimming pool tubing, 25 thousandths thick, but it's got a double layer. But I welded the whole frame together and it was too weak. So then I cut out all new pieces and I split them down the middle and snapped them over and then welded them along the bottom. So this is actually a double layer. It's really, really strong. It's 50 thousandths thick. Everything so far is recycled. These pulleys are, and the seat and back are off of an exercise machine that's out in my junk pile that somebody gave me. All the shifter cables and everything are secondhand. I stole the derailleurs off of my good bike just to try to get it to work, and I determined that they aren't going to work on this bike, and so I got this other bike from you, Larry, that I'm going to try to get the derailleurs off of that. Right now it weighs 44 pounds as it sits with the front cranks and everything on it, so it's a little bit heavy. But
tell about
the disc brakes. The front wheels are actually it's the front and rear wheels off of a child's bike that I got them years ago and stuck them away just for a project like this. And the rear had the larger, whatever they are, 1/4 inch diameter ball bearings, and there was a 9/16 hole in it. So this had enough room in it to put the heavier axle in, but the other didn't. I ended up making new races. I ended up making new external races for this one and then putting 3/16 ball bearings in order to get the bearings out far enough to sneak them past the outside of this 9/16 bolt. And then I made inner and outer races for that one to match, and ended up with real nice smooth running bearing. If you see, this thing just rolls really nice. I machined them out of just high carbon tool steel and then just heated them red hot, quenched them and got them hard, and then I polished them in the lathe, and that turned out real nice. And for the disc brakes, these are used skill saw blades that were in real nice shape, and I made hubs for them and threaded them. This one fits right on where the rear sprockets would fit in on the rear wheel, and then I actually, on the race that I made for this one, I threaded the race to match so that both sides are the same. That side I'm not going to have a problem with, because when they hit the brakes it'll tighten, but this side will untighten. I'm gonna be gluing this one on. See, if you put on the brake, you can actually unscrew this one. I'm going to be gluing this one, the threaded part of this disc brake, on with JB weld, and I'm also going to run a bolt or a couple of bolts through this hub or something to make sure it can't unscrew. So anyway, that's how I made the disc brakes part, and then the disc part of it, and then the brakes are actually just a couple of brake hand brakes that I filled in with. I actually put a 3/8 inch bolt in there that's glued in with JB weld, and then I glued with, got it all smoothed out, and I glued 1/4 inch thick rubber onto it, and it works really well. It just locks them up. So except that this one unscrews. I gotta make sure I make that unscrew. But I had problems with, originally I had both brakes, both the front brakes running off of this one left brake lever, and I had problems with the left brake would lock up and the right wouldn't, because there'd be a little bit of flex from this long brake line, and no matter how I adjusted it, the left one tightened up and the right one stayed loose. So I ended up switching. I've got the left brake running the left front wheel and the rear wheel, and the right brake runs only the right front, and I got it arranged so that the rear wheel locks up before the front wheel. So when I hit the brakes, the rear wheel locks up first and then the front brake locks up. And the right brake is separate by itself. So this brake line runs here, and then this brake line runs here and back to here. I made a little manifold here. Right here, it slips in place. There's a hole for the cables to come out, and then the two cables can go in, and then I just got both cables hooked into the brake. So that it does both at the same time. So I can run that lock. And it locks the back one up first before the first.
Why does it do the back one first before?
Because I don't want to be able to lock up.
No, but how did you make it do the back one first?
Just by adjusting it a little tighter.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't want to lock up, if I goof up and pull on the left brake, I don't want to lock up the left front brake because I don't know if it would steer it off or not, whatever, but hopefully I'll be using both brakes. But I'm going to try that, and if that doesn't work, then I'm not sure how to even it out on the front.
So tell about the engineering of the steering on it.
Well, the steering, that's all part of, you can go on the internet and learn all about that, but the objective is that it has to pivot exactly on the center of the wheel. And actually, after I got it all done, I put a little pointer on here, and you can turn it, and it pivots exactly under the front wheel and 10 degrees in front of where the wheel contacts the ground. And it turned out fine that way. And everything turned out fine. The only problem is...
So you used this dimension from the original plans?
No, this is totally different from the original plans. I had to monkey around quite a bit to get it right. The original plans... This thing was 6 inches. The seat was 6 inches lower. This angle was a lot less, and there was a lot of changes. I kind of made this as it developed, and it turned out real good. Everything, actually, when I got it all done and welded it all, it's actually straight and symmetrical, and the steering is all right within a 1/16 of an inch. I was surprised it turned out that close, but it did.
So this is salvaged off a bicycle?
Yeah, this is salvaged off a bicycle, and then the front crank goes on here. And then he had, well, the plans called out for 1.5 inch square tubing, and then he squeezed from the side, but I've got a radius on the top and the bottom, and then bolts that squeeze up this way. And let's see what else is interesting about it. The handlebars, the original plans had under the seat steering, and I decided just to make it less complicated, I put steering. I use I don't even know the right terminology, but the front handlebar tubes that go into the top stem of a bicycle here, and then I cut them down and threaded them here, and then this tubing, which is the handlebars off a mountain bike, I cut down and threaded and just screwed them on so that I got the right diameter to put what's nice about to put the shifters on. But what's nice about this is I can change them any way I want. All you gotta do is loosen up this screw, and I can raise them up or down or in or out, and I can have them however I want, or I can get rid of them altogether and do something else. These pulleys were cable pulleys off of a exercise machine. They had a radius in the bottom, and I put them in the lathe, and I tapered them a little bit and put a flat bottom on, and they worked real good, but they were noisy, so I cut out about a 1/4 inch wide strip of a bicycle inner tube and stretched over, and just to cushion them. So there's rubber in the bottom of them, and they're pretty quiet. They work real well, and they've got like wheelbarrow type bearings in them. They seem to run pretty true. We'll see how long they last. I don't know. So far I haven't bought anything new for it except for these 2 bolts, and they cost $10 a piece. They were a special order. And we used a cantilever brake off a mountain bike on this back brake, and I would have liked to have that kind of brake on the front. It would have been simpler, but then I'd have to run another tube over, and probably 2 of them to brace it all, and so I figured I'd go the disc brake route. So that's kind of where it is now. Oh, and then the return tube, piece of PVC mounted on some brackets underneath the pulleys, and it was real noisy, so I took a piece of 1/2-inch garden hose and I cut the whole outside and the fiberglass off of it, and it's got this nice smooth liner inside that I'm going to glue in place here, and the chain slides through there real nice and it's quiet, so that seems to work pretty well. So I'll probably just take some shoe glue or something and force some in around on each end and glue it in place, and that'll take care of that. And eventually different tires on it, I guess. My goal is to try to make it all totally recycled except for the tires and the chain. And so far it is all recycled. Well, except for these 2 bolts. The rod for the steering here is a shotgun cleaning rod out of my sporting goods cabinet. I got plenty of those, so it's just an aluminum rod. A couple of, I don't know whatever you call these ball joints. They came out of a riding lawnmower. The other interesting thing is that this was the rear bike tire, and this was the front. And if you look, this has got straight spokes, and this has got the triple cross spokes. So I went to a scrap yard and got a nice tire here that I'm going to take the spokes off of this and put on this one. And I'm hoping I can replace them one at a time so that I don't goof it up. We'll find out. I've never done it before. If this had a nice aluminum rim like this, I'd just swap the wheels, but I want to stick with these aluminum rims. So that's one of my projects coming up soon, is to do a spoke swap. Trying to think of what else is interesting on it. The seat is really comfortable. If you look, it's got lower back support. It's got a nice curve in it.
This tube here is only for supporting the brake.
Yeah, I'll be cutting this off. I'm still waiting until I determine. Well, I might leave it to a place to hold a drink holder, a water bottle. There's really no place on this thing for a water bottle at this stage, so I haven't decided about that yet. I'm thinking about, just to make it kind of cool, making a cover for the front and having a little toolkit inside the frame here. Because the objective is to not have a bunch of stuff hanging on this thing. It's going to be kind of a sleek machine. Racing bike. Anyway, that's about all. I guess I've been at it for about, I don't know how long, 5-6 weeks probably. I guess it's 90% completed. Now the big thing is trying to find derailleurs and sprockets and shifters that work. I found out that they have to be compatible. This derailleur back here I took off of my good bike. That one will cover 8 sprockets on my good bike with the shifter, but with this shifter that one will only cover 5 sprockets. This shifter doesn't move it enough, even though this shifter is a 7 sprocket shifter. It has to be the right derailleur to go along with it. So now I know that one doesn't work, and in the meantime I got this mountain bike that's got a 7-speed derailleur and a 7-speed shifter. So if that derailleur works, what I'll do is I'll try that derailleur with this shifter, and if that works, fine, and if not, I'll have to swap the shifters. As of right now, I probably got less than $50 stuck into it. Not even that, actually. Just a lot of time.